Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. You are here. I am here. And this is the Neuro-Affirming Discussion Hour with Humanities 101. I am Dr. Dutch. My students call me Doc. My friends call me Dutch. And only my mama and my wife call me Adam. So, welcome. Got hot coffee. Got a warm sweater. It is snowing in a good large portion of the United States today. I know lots of people are out of school. I know some people are out of work just for the day. So if you're joining us as one of those, welcome. If you're joining as one of my students, welcome. Even though you are early, the semester doesn't begin for a whole week. However, I assume that there will be some people sneaking in. So this will be a half hour or an hour every week, 9 o'clock on Mondays. And what we're going to be talking about is neuroaffirmation. So all things neurodiversity, all things autism, all things good design, all things good humans. So we're going to be looking at a lot of things, news, obviously, but new design, new products, new aids, new tools, new resources. Today, I'll be talking about a few resources that I use to help me stay organized for the semester. The semester is coming. The back to work malaise, you're rubbing it off your eyes this morning because it is Monday morning. It is 9 o'clock. If you've got the 9 to 5, right, you're back to your job. Make sure you put 2 copies of your cover sheet on those TPS reports and all that fun stuff. So I'd like to start today with a quote. Every Monday, I want to kind of bring a quote to you, something that's been important to me or impactful to me in some way. I have always found this is a good way to reflect and learn. So today's quote is one of my mantras from one of my literary heroes. So Ernest Hemingway. And he reminds us that there's nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man or your fellow human. True nobility is being superior to your former self. And so this is something that I try every day to do. I don't try to be better than the people next to me, the people around me. It's impossible. I know based upon who I am and how I work that you can't measure us the same way. However, I can measure myself. And so it's one of the things that when I get up in the morning, I try to consciously now as a practice. And one of the things that I am going to be doing this year is a gratitude journal. So every night you kind of sit down and you focus on what went well, what you can do better. And then in the morning, you kind of focus on the same things. So it's, again, just one of those ways when you have executive dysfunction. I don't know about other people, but when I wake up in the morning, my mind runs with lists of things that I need to do and things that need to be done. And it is overwhelming. And so I find that if I have a list already prepared and already ready to go, it's much easier. Before I sat down here, I wrote down what I have to do right after this, which is go to a store to purchase water because I live in mid-Michigan and we have some pretty harsh water here. So we like to get the bottled stuff for the machines so that we don't destroy all of our ice machines and coffee machines. But having that done and having that written down, I can focus on this. And I don't have to run through those lists. And that's one of the things that I have learned through therapy and unpacking, that our brains spend a lot of time on those lists. So offboard it. Take it out of your computer and put it on the most ancient of technologies, which is the papyrus. So remember that there's nothing noble in being superior to your fellow human. True nobility is being superior to your former self. And that's from Ernest Hemingway, who is often, I think, misdiagnosed as a man who did not like women. I think quite the opposite. He wanted one who could outman him. And in his final wife, he found that. So if you read his book, in True at First Light, which is his last memoir in Africa as a big game warden, you'll see that his last wife was amazing. So I'd also like to talk about news. We talk about New Day. We talk about news stories. One of the big things that happened last month, if people did not pay attention, in late December 2024, Biden signed the 5-year extension for the Autism CARES Act. So this is autism collaboration, accountability, research, education, and support. And this authorized $1.95 billion in federal funding for autism-related initiatives. Now, this was originally enacted in 2006, but the Autism CARES Act serves as a primary federal law addressing autism. And so this recent renewal ensures continuation of various federal activities, including research, prevalence tracking, which is very important because we've had prevalence numbers drop in half since they started collecting these numbers, screening, and professional training. And that's where organizations like Humanities 101 comes in, because we are involved in professional training as well as personal training. Now, some of the updates to the law is there's inclusive research. So the NIH is directed to support research encompassing the full spectrum of autism, including individuals with co-occurring conditions and varying support needs. This is important. Research has always been focused on one end or the other, and focusing on, and again, a directive to focus on all is pretty cool. Hold on, let me change the song here, because my royalty-free music gets playing in my head and I need something different. Okay, so, and that's a wonderful song called Detroit on the royalty-free music maker. The second one is focus on aging. A lot of times people have looked at autism, they have looked at it as a child's disease. It was originally diagnosed as childhood schizophrenia, right? And so it's one of those things that people believe you age out of, you grow out of. Right? It's one of those common misconceptions that we deal with on the daily. So there's added emphasis on studying autism in the context of aging. And I was just speaking with someone the other day whose 90-plus-year-old parent got a diagnosis. So these diagnoses in late adulthood happen. So more focused research would be good. And I was just reading this morning a young coder out of, I believe she's out of Georgia. But she is writing a diagnostic AI prescriptive program that's going to help with identifying overload, sensory overload, pattern recognition, a whole bunch of fun stuff. It will literally be predictive and send you a text and say, hey, take a break, right? So kind of like your Apple Watch. Expansions on centers of excellence. The NIH has these centers of excellence, which kind of focus on the best practices in autism research and practice. And so they're going to expand those, name more of those, which will be good, because that means more funding, more focus, more attention. More research and focus on assistive communication. So the law looks at the use of speakers and talkers. So iPad technology, which is highly, highly accessible, and has unlocked a world of communication to people that were locked in silence for so many years. And again, they were communicating, people just weren't listening. Workforce development, another big one. When you look at the number of gainful employment with autistic individuals, it is only 15% of autistic individuals have what they consider gainful employment, and that is self-defined, obviously, but gainful employment nonetheless. So this will look at exploring strategies to increase the number of developmental pediatricians, but also, so it's going to look at the workforce on the research end, but also on the other end, because again, full spectrum. So not just looking at the kids anymore, not just looking at early diagnosis, which again, I remind everyone, late diagnosis for autism is any diagnosis after 8. Okay. So, and then also transition services. So again, job placement, job training. And so this is good stuff. The ARC of the United States said that this is a critical step forward in addressing the needs of people with disabilities. And it's good to note that there was bipartisan support for this. More information, if you're interested, you can check out disability. Hold on. I still go back to the same song. Disabilityscoop.com. It's a wonderful website that gives you a kind of rundown of all the disability news stories of the day. So you can check out Disability Scoop if you want more information. In other news, human related, very interestingly, I often argue that we humans are required to connect, that we are hardwired to connect. And new research from the University of Cambridge and Fudan University has found that social interactions can enhance immune function and reduce the risks of diseases like heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. So they analyzed samples from 42,000 adults aged 40 to 69, focusing on the relationship between social isolation, loneliness, and protein levels in the blood. And what they found was that social isolation and loneliness is linked to increased levels of proteins associated with inflammation and immune responses. Specifically, 175 proteins were associated with social isolation, 26 with loneliness, with significant overlap between the two. So they've literally been able to find proof of your loneliness in your blood. So the health implications, elevated levels of these proteins have been connected to cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, stroke, and increased mortality risks. So the causal relationship, when they use some randomization and statistician, they've found 5 proteins that they think are directly caused by loneliness. Okay, so one notable protein, which is called ADM, was found in higher levels due to loneliness. ADM plays a role in stress response and the regulation of stress and social hormones. So this research underscores the significant impact of social relationships on physical health, suggesting that maintaining social connections can be a vital component of disease prevention and overall well-being. And again, this is from ScienceDaily.com. But if you know any lonely old person, you'll know that usually sickness is soon to follow. And I know that one of the ladies that my mom used to cut her hair, and later in her life, as she got older, her family passed away, and there was very few people to take care of her, and my mom became her caretaker. And actually, when we moved into the county seat, when my sister graduated school and my parents moved out of my hometown, we moved right across the street from Vi, so that my mom could take care of her. And one of the things that Vi, living to the ripe old age of 103, always told me was that she lived and died by the New York Times crossword puzzle every Sunday. Every Sunday, the crossword puzzle kept her mind sharp, she said. But she also said that she liked to talk to young people like myself. I was young then. I'm not so much young now. But probably the best piece of advice she told me was, sweetie, other than never cut your hair because you've got beautiful hair, don't take such good care of yourself. Don't listen to your mom. Go ahead and smoke. Go ahead and drink. She said, if I had known how to live this long, I wouldn't have taken care of myself. Now, that was a woman who had lived 50 years as a widow. Okay. She used to be served lunch by Mrs. Stouffer outside of the Terminal Tower in Cleveland. She saw the birth and the death of the 20th century. And I learned a lot from her. But that's probably the thing that sticks with me the most is I need to do more crossword puzzles and take less care of myself, or worse care of myself. So thank you, Vi. All right.
Let's do it, everybody.
One of the things I also would like to talk about are good and new things that I have found that have helped me out in my journey of self-regulation, living in the world unmasked, and all that other fun stuff. And one of those things I found actually on the TikTok shop, and you have to pay the money for it to get the real one. But it's called the Anti-Planner. And this thing is absolutely fabulous. First off, it is not a planner. It does not have dates and calendars in it. It has strategies in it. And basically what you do is you say, I've got shit to do today. And you look at your emotion, and it's organized through by stuck, overwhelmed, unmotivated, disorganized, discouraged, or extras. And basically, you kind of take a temperature of your emotion, and you figure out, why aren't you wanting to do this thing, like clean your bedroom? And you say, I'm unmotivated. So you flip to the unmotivated tab, and it asks you a question. How are you feeling? Are you waiting to feel like it? If so, flip to page 160. Are you lacking accountability? No one's here to tell you to do it. Flip to page 182. Are you just disinterested in the task? Flip to page 192. Or uninspired? Flip to page 206. And when you flip to those, what you're going to see is little strategies and games. This one is called procrastination blackjack. There's avoidance bingo. There's trick yourself into becoming a morning person. What? This fabulous Danny Donovan is the author. DANIDONOVAN. What Ms. Donovan has done is take all of the best strategies of CBT, of various techniques of gamifying, and literally put them all in one resource, one beautifully designed, bound. It's got all of the fabulous things, the bookmarks, the little strap. I'm a geek for good books. It has a pen clip, right? It has all of the fabulous things. But she drew it herself. She did all the things herself. And you'll find versions of it online a lot cheaper, but don't buy them. They're knockoffs. They're not the quality. This is a quality planner. And like I said, you do not want this to be a throwaway thing. So I have found that the anti-planner is absolutely a game changer in my life. And good morning, Big Joe. All hail Big Joe. I see Big Joe over on the other social media, so I just have to say,
let's do it, everybody.
And all Big Joe. So another thing, one of the things that I have yet to really like. So I don't just want to give you good things. I also want to tell you things that, all right, is I got this little thing, and I spent a lot of money on this little thing. This is called an R1 Rabbit. Okay, and this was supposed to be an audio-visual interface with AI that was supposed to revolutionize my life. It hasn't. It is a very expensive paperweight, and it's even a bad paperweight. And so if you're thinking about buying the R1, I would not recommend it. I would actually tell you to check out an app called OHAI, OHAI. And again, I get no money from any of these organizations. We get no sponsorship from any of these. The only sponsorships we have is a thing called Fidgeties, and you have to buy one for us to get any money. But, okay, OHAI is a fabulous little app that I've been playing around with. Now, it's got a subscription service, but there's a free service too, where you can text your schedule. I texted them the website for the college and said, add this schedule to my schedule. I texted my my daughter and wife's schedule, said, remind me of their dates. And it has been to date sending me updated texts. The other great thing about it is it will read the text messages and emails in my phone, and it gives me a 2 or 3 sentence summary. So when one of my friends send me a message, it will say, just checking in, wants a response about blah, blah, blah. And I will tell you that is fabulous, right? To be able to look at my phone and access that information quickly, and for it to send me reminders. So again, I get no money from them, but OHAI, and OHAI, it's like our buddy, the diver, the holy diver, if you know who I'm talking about. Oh, hey. So getting back to some news, cool thing, in Kenya, they discovered 3 million-year-old tools. All right, so we're talking, we're talking craft striking stones. So the stones, basically akin to flint and arrowheads, but they found early hominin species not directly ancestral to humans, and they found a tooth of the Paranthropus next to these tools. And so this finding suggests that tool usage may have originated with other hominin species other than ourselves, that humans might have learned tooling from other primate type humanoids. And this is pretty cool. Again, I'm always fascinated when the history books are rewritten. And this is one of those times where history book is kind of being rewritten. And this is on CBS. If you're interested, cbsnews.com. And it's research to find ancient tools in Kenya. And so again, when you think about eating as functional or as important to us survival as humans, the tools to process fruit, process vegetables, process meat, those are going to be some of the first things. Just like we know with primates, chimpanzees, bonobos, and the other primates that are using tools, they're doing so to collect termites, food, honey, things of this nature. So they're literally using it to harvest. Okay. Again, reminds me, feed the kids, right? The whole reason why we civilize is to feed. I was watching some old file footage last night of Fred Hampton speaking. There's the documentary, The Death of Fred Hampton, and I believe it's on HBO, and it's just a series of archival footage from both after and before his death. And my kid was like, "What are they doing?" And I said, "Oh, they're feeding kids." And she says, "Oh, well, they do that to me every day." And I said, "Well, they do that to you every day because of this program, right? Because of these people. That's why you have, a food program at school." And then she asked what happened to the man who helped start the program in Chicago. And I flat out told her. I explained to her exactly what both the Chicago PD and the FBI have admitted to, and she was appalled. And then I explained to her that this was very closely before her mom and I were born, that it's not that long ago, and that we continually have to fight to feed people. And so, again, just something that kind of hit me as I'm reading this news about our ancestors 3 million years ago. They did it for the kids, man. Like, what the hell are we doing? Now that I've depressed everyone, let's listen to some jazz. Again, all royalty free here on the Neuro-Affirming discussion hour, or half hour, depending on our talkback here and depending on if there are questions. And again, if you have them, feel free to post questions. I'm watching some of the social medias. Let me get the comments up and see. Wonderful. Do you need a video editor to edit your live? Oh, always. Wonderful. Yeah, just hit us up. We're always looking for volunteers. So, all right, good morning, everybody. I just want to catch up on the comments here. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for the gifts, everybody, on the places where they're giving the gifts. Okay, so another thing which directly affected me over the last month and is in disability news is Disney's change to the Disability Access Service Pass. Last year in April, Disney implemented changes to its DAS, and it limits eligibility primarily to guests with developmental disorders such as autism. It used to be open to all disabled park visitors. Now it's fairly limited. This adjustment is in response to a significant increase in DAS requests, which has more than tripled over the past 5 years, leading to overcrowding in the Lightning Lane and extended wait times for popular attractions. Previously, the DAS allowed guests with various disabilities to wait outside standard lines and then access rides via an expedited line. Under the new policy, individuals with conditions other than developmental disorders, including those with mobility impairments, are generally excluded from the service. The shift has led to frustration among affected guests who now face challenges in obtaining necessary accommodations. A survey conducted by a researcher from Robert Morris University revealed that 90% of families who previously used DAS reported increased anxiety during park visits, and 35% have chosen to forego Disney trips altogether. In response to guest feedback, Disney has extended the validity period for the DAS eligibility from 120 to 240 days and is providing additional training to park employees to better assist guests with disabilities. The company also offers a range of accommodation options detailed on its website to support guests with diverse needs. While Disney aims to balance operational efficiency with guest satisfaction, the recent changes have sparked a debate about the adequacy and inclusivity of accommodations for all members and guests with disabilities. Advocates emphasize the importance of ensuring the necessary support is available to those who need it, regardless of the potential for system misuse. And I completely agree. I mean, obviously I wrote that, but I wrote it in a different voice. I completely agree that this is something that should not, abuse of a system is not reason to limit a system, because then you're taking away from people who need. And I will say, having accessed the DAS 2 times, I accessed the DAS 5 years ago for a family member, and then this year for myself. There was a marked difference. Before, you simply went to the park, you simply asked for one, you got it. Okay. And again, when you think about privacy, when you think about a lot of things, this makes sense. But again, we know humans being humans, right? And looking for shortcuts, if you will. I mean, that's kind of our evolutionary imperative, to find an easier way to do things. Possibly there was abuse of the system. However, limiting it to only developmental disabilities that have, things like autism, that have issues with waiting in lines or queues, have caused kind of a wedge or division in the disability community. But there was a difference this time. While I could have done it at the park, again, because I'm autistic and I would like to know, I did it ahead of time. You can do it, I believe, 30 days in advance. You can get online, and I was told that it would be a 7 or 8 hour wait. I didn't wait any more than 10 minutes. I called on weekdays in the morning, kind of first thing. So I was expecting there to be a wait, but there wasn't. If you're calling for families, you have to have that family member present. So I did it on a snow day for my kid. It worked out where we were able to talk. Again, I just wanted to go through the process and see what it was like. But they asked me questions about why am I seeking the DAS? And I explained, about lines and waiting in queue. And they said, what is it about it? And I said, it's not about me waiting in line. It's about you waiting in line. You're not following the rules. And then they asked me what happens when this happens. And I explained to them that my last trip at Disney, I don't remember a single thing that I ate. I remember about up till lunch, and then everything kind of just fades to gray. It doesn't go black because I remember that I was there. I see pictures and I'm like, yeah, I kind of remember that, but I can't remember specifics. So I dissociate for the day, right? In order to keep everyone else happy, like not the people I'm with, everyone else in the park. I go somewhere else to follow the rules. And they asked how that physically manifested itself. I explained it. And it was no time at all that she said, okay, you're approved. Now, when I went through with a family member, a little different process. I mentioned that I was in disability advocacy work, and they called in a third party. And they got in another person to verify with my family member that, this was that. But it was still a fairly simple process. That was a little unnerving. I was nervous. I was visibly nervous because the person from Disney said, this is okay. This is part of the process. This is normal. And I said, well, this isn't normal. It didn't happen when I did it. And she said, well, we've got different protocol for different guests. And I said, okay. But it was a different process both times. Now, I will tell you, having the DAS as an autistic person visiting Disney was a game changer this time, because last time it was different. Granted, we were with my mother who was in a wheelchair, so we got right in to get to rides and things. But even then, I was rushed. I was on a schedule. We had lightning lanes here. We had this, we had this, we had this. And with the DAS, that wasn't the case. I got on the app. We said, where are we? Which ride is coming up next? And we just got in line. And it may be an hour, it may be two. But then once that time was up, we could show up. We could go up to the lightning lane. We could show our, put our little DAS pass in, and everything was good to go. And so it made it easy for me to not have to think about where I was going to wait or how I was going to wait. I could focus on resources to wait. So, distraction, doing other things. And honestly, I know for me and for family members, take care of basic needs, because that's one of the things that you forget in those moments is you don't eat, you don't bathe, you don't, go to the bathroom, those kinds of things. You forego the basic needs that you have in order to make the situation comfortable. And so having that DAS pass, and that was the other thing. We knew that if they told us 2:10 was our time, any time after 2:10, we could go back. Now, we could not book a whole bunch of rides. We had to go to that ride and then we could get on another ride. So there'd be another hour wait, right? But knowing that when we show up anytime after there, that we didn't have to be there within the 10 minutes, because we buy a couple lightning lanes, because there are a couple things that were not on the DAS pass. And they give you a 10-minute window. And if you're not there within that 10-minute window, you've thrown that money away, right? And so that is disconcerting when you're staying on that schedule. And so those few times I was like, okay, I can do this 2 or 3 times. I could not do this 3 or 4 days. And so, again, this came from Disability Scoop, but, Disney made those changes. And I just remind everybody in the disability community that not all accessibility is accessible for all of us, right? And so, whereas I have been in classrooms that are accessible for physical mobility, for some developmental disability, not for all. And so I don't, I really caution about allowing a wedge to be driven into the community because of a perceived difference in access. And I know that that's a constant thing on all sides of the disability front. So that's all for news today. Good stuff and bad stuff, fun stuff and sad stuff. But one of the things that I want to do every Monday is to remind people that, again, it really is not our place to choose what happens. I mean, get a little Gandalfy here, but it really isn't our place to choose what happens to us, around us, all of those other things. It's how we react to, or how we do not react to those things. And that's something that I'm learning as I progress and practice in my older age, to being nobler than my former self. But I want to remind everybody that probably the most important thing about trying to be nobler than you were the day before is forgiving that person from the day before as well. Because I know guilt, shame, punishment, that's one of the things that a lot of people carry with them, and they feel the necessity to do in order for some penance to be paid. But sometimes there is no answer, and no penance needs to be paid except to yourself. I have a very, very, very good friend who always tells me that if I say sorry, I should be saying it to myself and not to other people, or apologizing for a situation. And it's something that daily I try to do. And today I want you to take with you. So, truly, I want you to be good to yourself. Think about that today and going forward this week, the first full week of the year, is give yourself the grace that you would give other people. My wife always used to say, maybe it's their birthday. Let them go. Maybe it's their birthday. And, when you're driving on the car, getting upset. And by God, sometimes we need to treat ourselves like it's our birthday and give ourselves that grace and say, you know what? I fucked up. But I don't need to know why. I don't need to know how. I just need to know that I did. and that I won't do it again. Because again, being someone who is paid to think and paid to analyze, I have had to learn that that is not always the way to find answers. That overanalysis and overthinking sometimes is more detrimental to healing and compassion and self-care than just living in ignorance. And it's not living in ignorance of how I can better myself or how I can help better those around me, but it's sometimes picking at the details only gets us in that cycle of shame and guilt again and again and again. And so I just want you to feel free sometimes to say, yep, I fucked up. And then just let it go. And put it in a bubble and let it go. So if there's one thing that you can take with you this week is put that shit in a bubble and let it go. And if you need to, flush it down. And I really hope that you are good to yourself this week. I know that that's one of the things that I'm going to try actively to do. And I'm going to start today and start right now. So I want you to do that too. And we'll be back next week at 9 o'clock Eastern here on the tubes, the Twitches, the LinkedIns, the Books of Faces, and maybe for one more week, the Tickety Talks. But until then, your left leg on the left side, your right leg on the right side. And remember, if you fall off in the middle of the stream, don't grab the horse's tail. He'll kick you in the face. Okay?